Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Today is Sunday, November the 28th, and this is Life Matters. Let's talk about it. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Life Matters with Michelle, and I am your host, Michele Irby Johnson, and I'm excited as always to come into your homes, on your jobs, wherever you may be, and to share with you what our community needs. Again, this is a platform that speaks specifically to the African-American community, albeit we are not discriminatory. We just like to talk about those things that we think are relative and relevant for our community to get the help and the resources that they need to be better, to be greater, and to be all that God has called them to be. Once again, I am Michele Irby Johnson, and I have with me today my very special guest, Miss Tiesha Marie Johnson, who will come to you just in a moment. I want to remind each and every one of you, if you have a question, please put it in the chat so that I can field it over to our beautiful guest on today, who will so graciously answer your questions as I know that she can. So once again, our guest on today is Miss Tiesha Marie Johnson, and she is going to be discussing, hold on to your hats, hold on to your Bibles, hold on to your seats. She's going to be talking about after the breakup. Ma'am, help the people. Say hello.
Hello, everyone. And Michelle, thank you so much for this awesome opportunity. I don't take it lightly. I definitely appreciate you sharing this opportunity to share with the people. So thank you.
You are so very welcome. I'm excited to have you on the show. So before we jump in, let me give the people a little background on you. She has an extensive background, but I'm going to give you a snippet of it. If you want to learn more, you got to reach out to her. Okay. All right. So Miss Tiesha Marie is affectionately known as Coach T. Marie, is a transformational relationship coach, speaker, Amazon best-selling author, entrepreneur, and ordained elder. Whoop, whoop. She leads the charge to healing hearts after the breakup and helping people manifest the love of their lives. She also has a background in training and critical incident stress management. Me too. Military. CISM. Yes. She also has experience in healing of damaged emotions and biblical studies. She's the founder and creator of Your Love of a Lifetime. She has survived divorce and proudly proclaims, if you can survive, you can survive. If I can survive, you can survive. I know that's right. I still believe in love and the covenant of marriage. Your Love of a Lifetime, the movement she founded, promotes loving again, healing, and obtaining a mutually fulfilling and devoted relationship. She has 20 years plus experience working with individuals who have faced traumatic circumstances such as grief, domestic violence, rape, and violent crimes. She and her team have worked with the Detroit public school system, mentoring 4th and 5th grade girls in the area of self-esteem, conflict resolution skills, and developing healthy self-care regimens. I tell you, she is amazing. She's going to be celebrating 20-year anniversary in 2022 for her Well Women Ministries Global in Detroit, Michigan, which is where she leads and oversees women in the areas of outreach, yes, spiritual and ministry development, yes, as well as emotional support. She has helped catapult numerous women into their own ministerial gifts and callings. Lastly, she is going to be launching her show called the Tiesha Marie Show. Come on now. late in fall 2021, a show that will improve and enhance the lives of men and women in areas of such as relationship, purpose, and healing in order to live a thriving life. She's launching new books in the winter. And if you are a woman who has it all except your ideal partner, you can find classes, intensives, and courses available with Coach Marie. Let me tell you something, ma'am. I felt like I was talking about reading about myself. So glad to have a kindred sister here. Amen. Amen. I didn't know. Well, you know, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm so excited because this topic, let me tell you, after the breakup, not many people have survived, nor have they thrived after the breakup. Some people are still recovering, and it's been years. So let's dive right into this. I know that you've written a book, so give us a little background on what inspired you to write this book.
Well, I've been a writer all of my life. I started writing when I was a little girl, and I think when I got older, I thought writing a book for me was so far away because, you know, back in the day, you used to have to be able to connect with a large publishing company and that kind of thing. But as things have evolved, you know, self-publishing came to pass. And so I thought, okay, well, now I don't have to go that other route. I can go this way. And I still wasn't for certain, but there was just something that said I have to write. Now, Michele, I will admit to you, I was a little chicken about writing my own book. So my first book, I actually was a published author before my own book, but this book, I endeavored to gather some ladies who had similar stories. And what I discovered was that I couldn't get out of writing this book because there are so many women who have a similar story. They've been broken after their marriage or long-term relationship. And like you said, a lot of them are still stuck and don't know how to get out of that stuck place. So I said, okay, I got to write this book. And so if there were 7 of us, 6 other ladies that joined me in this book, and the rest is kind of history. It launched so much for me. And so I'm super excited. And that was just the first book because there are other people that need to be able to share their story because I believe in love and I want people to know that you don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to be broken all of your life. You really can heal and move forward.
Amen. Let me tell you. So it sounds like this is an anthology. So I really need to get a copy of that because, you know, I like to get a copy of the books of people who are guests on my show or people that I run across because I love anthologies and I cannot wait to read through that. But it's very important, like you said, that people need to know how to heal. And I think one thing that we do not do a good job of is giving ourselves the time that we need between breakups. And so as a result, we take that blood, we take those bruises, we take that pain, and we deposit it into another relationship. And we essentially throw it on somebody who doesn't deserve it. And then we're trying to figure out why this relationship isn't working either. We have not allowed ourselves to be mended. We have not allowed God to put the broken pieces together. We have not allowed ourselves to sit in what happened and take ownership of our part.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we always want to point the finger at the other person. But when you point one finger, there's always 3 pointing back at you. So what did you do? What was your contribution to the breakup? So this is going to be juicy, y'all. I already feel it in my bones. I got three questions. Somebody's already asking questions, Miss Tiesha.
I see. You know, you said that you throw blood on somebody else, but guess what? Usually you're attracting somebody who's broken. If you move right on. And so y'all throwing blood at each other.
Absolutely.
A mess of a situation. So it's so critical for you to take that time in between the breakup. I just wanted to add that because people think, oh well, I heard a saying. I don't know. My mother never told me the way to get over somebody is get up
Just
under
get under
somebody.
somebody.
That's crazy to me.
That is the craziest thing, because all you're going to do is mix and mingle your pain and your
Yeah,
trauma, and you're both going to be two bruised and broken people trying to love one another out of something you don't even know,
right,
out of something you don't even you haven't even gotten over yourself. And
right.
and we're all a testament to that. I've been married and divorced more than once. I am currently married to my husband, who we were divorced and for 10 years, and then the Lord saw fit to pull us back together, because he knew that there was something in our partnership that he needed in the earth. And
Wow,
so I was single for 10 years.
that's awesome.
And not that I didn't desire
Right.
relationship and love, I did, but I didn't want to get caught up in foolishness, because I wanted who God had for me. And I was surprised, and he was surprised. God has a sense of humor, but we both had to heal,
Yeah,
not just from our own marriage that we had with one another, but just in the things that we didn't even overcome before we got married. So
right.
it's amazing. So the first question I want to ask is, when do you know it's time to break up? Let me hold on to my chair.
Well, listen. Let me talk about my story because I think there's a knowing, especially for women. Now, I can't speak for a man, but for a woman, you really know when it's over. It's just you haven't gotten the courage to walk away. You feel like I'm used to this situation, or I know the demons I'm dealing with in this relationship. So the unknown of a new relationship can be frightening. For me, I was so broken. I was in so much pain. And in one breakup, one of the marriages that I had, in prayer, the Lord said, if you don't leave, you're going to die.
Mm,
Now, I didn't know if that was physically or spiritually or however, but I knew death wasn't quite my story just yet.
right.
And so I didn't take it lightly because I knew the voice of the Lord. And so I said, well, okay, I got to leave. And we spent some time trying to see through counseling. We have been through counseling, but we spent some time trying to see if after the separation we could actually come to terms on some things and all of that. But it wasn't to be so. So you gotta, number one, surround yourself with wise counsel. That's one thing that I believe in. You need to be around people who can see what you don't see, that can be that outside looking in, unbiased.
Yeah.
And I have to stress that because sometimes you have people that no matter what you're going through, they feel like you should stay married. I don't believe that's God's best for your life, to
Yeah.
stay in a situation that could end tragically.
Yeah.
I just don't believe that. And so, you've got to listen to you got to listen to your body. I was at a point where, and I can say this in several instances, I was on the verge of nervous breakdown. I was on the verge of Lord knows what other serious health condition, but I just wasn't physically, mentally, and emotionally in a good spot. And I was like, hey, I'm not crazy. I often say I was like the prodigal son. I came to myself and
Ooh.
said, okay, let me go do something different.
And oftentimes people won't admit that they need to come to themselves. A lot of people, they would much rather say that they're in a relationship, even if it's toxic,
Yeah.
even if it's dangerous, even if it's abusive. I was an abused wife 24 years, almost 25 years ago. I escaped 25 years ago.
Wow.
And I was almost killed several times at the hand of my then spouse. And so it was, when I tell my story, I said, you have to, you know when it's time.
Right.
And if your ear is not tuned to the voice of God, if you're not, waiting or listening for that click in your spirit or that confirmation in your spirit, you'll stay based off people's opinions. You'll stay based off of fear. You'll stay based off of, well, at least somebody wants me. And that's no way to live. And like you said, you have to know in your knower
Yeah.
when it's time to break up. And we cannot be so desperate to say that we're in a relationship, or so desperate to get the diamond ring, or so desperate for whatever the case may be, that we will, in essence, put ourselves in critical danger, or put ourselves in what's on death row,
Yeah.
proverbially or literally put ourselves on death row, because we're desperate for a relationship. And so it's vitally important that we understand when to know to leave. And you made a statement about people who say, to stay in the marriage. And one of the things when I counsel couples, and the person is, they're, if one person, now the Bible says if one person wants to stay, you let them stay, what have you, but you still have to weigh all of the things. And one thing, if I can drop this in the audience's lap, is that oftentimes we've gotten married without God's permission.
Exactly.
We have married someone that God did not approve of, but we were so in love, so we find ourselves in divorce because that person was not our purpose partner. That person was not who God established for us. We thought the love in the loins was going to get us there and was going to keep us there, but that's not how it happens. And so when people divorce, or people are trying to make you stay in a relationship, you have to ask the question, did God put them together?
Exactly.
And if the answer is no, you have to step out of that, because if they got in that in their flesh, or they got in that out of desperation, or whatever the case may be, and God didn't sanction it, who are you to say, oh, you need to stay, you need to stay? So we need to stay out of people's business when it comes to divorce. Yes, I'm a pastor. I believe the Bible. I understand. I get it. But you don't know the circumstances behind closed doors. You don't know the circumstances behind that person's heart. And so you have to give them space to see where they are and where they need to go. Amen.
Absolutely. I agree. Totally. And I tell people, because a lot of people just want the wedding. They want the wedding and the ring and all of that. Listen, go throw yourself a big party, wear whatever color dress you want to wear, dance to your shoes and your socks fall off, but don't enter into a what's supposed to be a lifelong covenant,
Right.
for the reasons that don't keep you together.
Exactly. You want to show everybody your dress, or oh, I want everybody to see how I'm looking. Okay, you look like that. You spent $40,000 on a wedding, and you were married for 2 months.
Right.
Who's paying that debt? But anyway, that's another show, Miss Tiesha, because we can talk about that on another show.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
Again, we're talking to Miss Tiesha Marie Johnson, and we're talking about after the breakup. So a question came in that says, how does a person cope after the breakup? That's got some layers to it.
Absolutely. I believe in counseling, and we got to be careful who we counsel with first and foremost. So you have to be in a protected circle. And like you said, there are a lot of layers to it, self-examination. Forgiveness was huge in one of my separations. Even before we got to divorce court, I was, the father said, no, you have to forgive. And I didn't even think it was a big issue with me. So, you've got to deal with that emotional baggage that you have, the shame of it. You've got to deal with that. A woman in the church, in ministry, and all of that. And I was ashamed of what the people were going to say, which caused me to stay stuck. Now, I'm not saying they forced me, but that was a consideration in my mind. How am I going to look to the people?
Yeah.
So you've got to deal with all of that. I call it baggage, because it really is that hurt that you're experiencing. You've got to learn how to effectively deal with your emotions. You're going to be sad. It's okay to cry. Even when I deal with people that are going through that process, feel your emotions. Don't bottle them in. But I want you to use and deal with it constructively. We're not trying to start a case or anything like that. Orange is not the new black, so don't do any of those things. But you got to find a way to manage your emotions. And if you have not been used to managing your emotions, or even you've never felt that kind of pain, you got to get help. You can't get stuck. You got to get help.
And an issue with that, I'm gonna say, Elder Tiesha, is that a lot of people do not have emotional intelligence. They don't even know what their emotions are. They don't know why they feel a particular way, and when they do feel that way, where does it stem from? What is the root? When I
Right.
counsel people, I said, let's go back to your history. I don't want to talk about your current situation. There's something in your history that this is hinging on that you've not dealt with, and unless we unearth it, you're going to
Yeah.
stay there and you're going to take it to the next place, whether it's a job, whether it's a church, whether it's a relationship. And so even if it was a relationship pain, you may bring that damage into a job. You may take it into a church. You may take it into whatever. And so it's vitally important that we take a look at our history. And if you've broken up more than once, if you've had 5 relationships in 2 years, you need to ask yourself,
Not
why?
what's wrong with them. What's wrong with me?
What's wrong with me? Because, and I was talking to some, and I tell this to several people, if you find yourself dating the same person with a different name, it's
Yeah.
time for you to see what in you is attracting them.
Yeah.
Because you're attracting who you are in that person. And so if it's being wounded, if it's needing acceptance, if it's, brokenness, if it's codependency, you're going to attract who you are. And so you've got to break that cycle by understanding who you are, your emotions, and all of those different things. So sometimes it's hard for people to come to grips with their emotions because they've never had to deal with them.
Exactly. You are so right. And to tell someone that the person that you're attracting is a reflection of who you are, some people that wipes them out.
They get offended. They get so
Because
offended.
they don't realize that. But you have to, again, get the help that you need. We think it's simple. We think marriage, the information of how to deal with it and how to do it comes by osmosis. It doesn't. We think having kids, you understand how to be the perfect parent by osmosis. It doesn't. You
It
have to
doesn't.
look for the examples and the information that you need. I remember a while ago, someone laughed at one of the girls I work with because she was reading the book what to know when you get pregnant, whatever the name of that book was. And the person was like, why would you read a book? Well, she'd never been a mother before. She has to have some kind of foundation. And I think
Information is power.
with relationship is no different. You just because you saw it play out in your life, in your family, in your household, doesn't mean that it's right.
Exactly. And I'm glad you said that because I can only use example myself as an example. When my current husband and I, we were divorced for 10 years. In those 10 years, I worked on me. I read books. I went to seminars. I went to retreats. I was like, I need to know what is it about me that feels that I need to keep attracting this foolery. And what is it, and when I discovered what it was, oh my God, my mind was blown. And so it allowed me to shift, do therapy, counseling, self-talk, all of those different things. Otherwise, whenever God sent my husband to me, the one that I have now, whenever God sent him to me, I needed to be ready and be so keenly aware of who I was that if there was a trigger or if there was something that came up or if there was something I didn't like, I wasn't afraid to say, babe, I that's not me. I don't want to watch that. I don't want to do that or what have you, and not feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
You know,
Communication.
mm,
That's another show.
a
'Cause
whole
if
nother.
we don't know how to effectively communicate with one another. We
Absolutely.
hold stuff back and it just builds on top of the things that are already there. And before you know it, you have something so huge, this huge mountain that you get tired of trying to climb the first level of it. And so
Mhm.
people often walk away.
Absolutely, absolutely. Another question from our audience that says, "What are some questions to ask yourself? Why the breakup?" I'm assuming that means after the breakup, because there are questions you need to ask yourself. What are some that you would suggest?
Well, I asked myself, how did I get here? And like you said, you've got to look at not just the relationship. You need to look at your history, the things that you've experienced growing up. you've got to look at the examples. For me, I did not know that I was making decisions about relationships based on abandonment and rejection issues that I had not even known existed and I had not dealt with.
Mm,
So there are things in your past that contribute to the person that you attracted and why you're in the relationship and why you even deal with the person the way that you do.
mm.
You said something earlier about purpose, and that's so powerful. You have to look at not just the things that happen in the midst of the relationship, but you as the individual. Is this relationship drawing me closer to my purpose? Am I walking in my purpose while I'm in this relationship? Or is purpose not even on the table?
Yeah,
It's so important. You have to know your purpose, because if you don't, and I understand, listen, if you're married and you don't know your purpose, I'm not telling you to divorce your spouse at all. Y'all have to figure out a way to work that out. But if you are
echo.
not married, to my single people, my young people, figure out what your purpose is, so that in that you'll attract somebody who can go on. They might not walk the same path of purpose, but you can be walking in the same direction. So
Mm-hmm.
if I, or even something that I like, a lot of times I talk to women who put aside the things that they really like and love for the sake of the relationship, to maintain peace, or, then comes the children and all of that. And so their desires, the things that motivate them, get put on the back burner. And unfortunately, they never get off the back burner because they're
Yeah,
so used to that. So if I'm a person that's used to traveling and getting up and go, it won't make sense for me to be with somebody who is a couch potato.
exactly.
It's not going. They might be a great person. They might do a lot of things, but are they going to be okay with you leaving? Are you going to have girls trips all the time and never a us trip? So there's so much that, and again, that's why I say you need to get some help, because there are things that you won't readily see that somebody else might see, to help you deal with it. Or like you said, um, seminars, books, courses, videos. I mean, there's so many tools out there. But the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, you can't feel like, oh, I got this, I'm gonna do this. Do it with help.
Yeah, right. Do it with some real help. And that's good. And I'm glad that you said something about the person putting themselves on the back burner. My husband and I, we were having a conversation yesterday. We do these, every week we sit down and we have these deep conversations with these little cards. And so one thing I reminded him, I said, one thing we have to remember is we can't lose the me in the we. And
Yeah,
what happens is
good.
before I met you, I like to roller skate. Before I met you, I like to watch HGTV. Before I met you, whatever the case may be, now that you're with somebody does not mean that you have to stop being who you are, but you compromise. Okay, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we're going to do stuff together. Tuesday and Thursday, it's me because I have my girls group online. I got this. And so we can't lose ourselves. And so then when you break up, after you have deposited all of yourself into this relationship and now you find yourself free and broken at the same time, you don't even know how to regroup and recover who you are because you've lost who you are, and now rediscovery has to happen.
Yep, exactly. And that's, again, you talked about layers. That's a whole nother layer. Discovering who you are, loving you. If we teach people how to love us, how to treat us, and you weren't being treated properly, then what does that say about your relationship with yourself? So again, we could go deep on that question, but you've gotta position yourself so that you ask yourself the right questions and you're honest with yourself.
Yes,
A
absolutely.
lot of other people, but when you look in that mirror, you got to be able to be honest with yourself. And the truth is not always pretty.
It's not.
You still have to be okay with that.
It's not. So I have a question that's related to one of the questions that you gave me. It says, when do you think is a good time to start dating after the breakup? I think we kind of touched on this a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you have to go through, I believe you go through a process of healing. Now, men, it's a little different. So again, I'm speaking from a woman's perspective, but I do believe that men should take time. I found that a lot of times men have moved on mentally and otherwise long before they have physically. And so it looks like he jumped right into a relationship. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, I'm not sure. But I can speak for a woman that we have to take the time. Is that 3 months? Is that 6 months? It just really depends on the individual
Mhm.
and how much work you're willing to put in. And if you have the right tools and methods to deal with those things that you really have to deal with. You really won't know that you're healed until you get into another relationship, because you'll
Exactly.
begin to see, oh, I'm still sensitive right there. Oh, that's still a problem. Or if someone brings something to you and you're like, okay, but the last one said that. Okay, yeah, let me back on up. So you've just got to take the time, and I think it helps when you have people around you that are going to be honest, and you should listen to those people. So if you have a person that you can say, hey, I feel like I want to date again, what you think? If they say no, then it's no.
And it's
I'm,
and it's okay to ask them why they feel that way, because just getting a flat no may be offensive, but if there's
right,
explanation along with it,
right,
because some people be like, oh, you just being mean, you just don't want me to be with anybody. No, there's a reason. So if somebody gives you a no, it's very important that they tell you why it's a no. And
exactly.
because something that you said speaks to triggers.
Yeah,
You, if something still triggers you, like after my abusive relationship, the way a person sounded, how the tone in their voice, the force behind their voice, if they
yeah,
said certain things, I knew I wasn't ready, because if I started sweating or started feeling like I was having anxiety or whatever, those are
yeah,
triggers. So
yeah,
if you are still being triggered
yeah,
by things that happened in your relationship after the breakup, it is not time, ma'am or sir, to link up with anybody else. And you said something else that was very key, that Bishop T.D. Jakes said years ago. The man may be still in your house, sleeping in your bed, eating your food, hanging out with you, but he left long before he left.
yeah,
And women, we do it too. We can leave long before we leave, but men, they have a way of knowing how to compartmentalize and move away long before they actually leave the house. And
yeah,
so there, and that's not to say they don't get hurt deeply, because I've dealt with some men that are still scarred from
yeah,
relationships that happened 20 years
absolutely.
ago, that they haven't dealt with, and they're just dancing around it and trying to figure out why they've never been married. Well, honey, you haven't dealt with that. I don't want to
Yeah,
talk about that. And there you go.
why? Yeah.
That's why. Another question says, what are some patterns to avoid after the breakup? That's another show.
Jumping into relationships. One thing is checking that person's social media and trying to keep up with them. Now I have very deep relationships with people from from the other families, but it's not ever to, well, what's going on with him, who he dating now. No, that's a recipe for disaster.
It
If
is.
you're still following up behind that person, if you still have the urge to look at their social media page, then yeah, you need to block, unfriend, and all of that stuff.
But you're
Um,
not over it.
right, and that's the indication you're not over them. When it becomes to the point where you can be in their presence and nothing in you is moved, like there's no hurt. Yeah, yeah, like you said, you don't start sweating your palms and your heart palpitating. When you're okay, you know that you've made significant strides. Now there still may be things that are there that you need to deal with, but in terms of that person, stop following after that person.
Yeah, yeah. Because what all that's doing, and I have said this to people. There's one person that I was counseling. she had been divorced for 6 years and she was still following her ex on Facebook. Or he gave her this, he bought her that, they took a trip. I should have been. I said, honey,
Gotta let
I
it
need
go.
you to I need you to let that go. He's been remarried for 6 years and you are still trying to figure out why, and why he didn't take you there. Why it almost reminded me of acrimony. She wearing my wedding dress, she's wearing my ring, she's living in my house. No, she's not. She's living in hers,
Yeah.
because that relationship no longer exists. And so I think people have these phantom relationships with their exes, thinking that if they stalk them on social media, or if they ask the family questions, what is he doing, what is she doing, that somehow that's going to resolve. But you're moving into resentment, you're moving into bitterness, you're
Yeah.
moving into unforgiveness, and all of those things compound together, will compound your grief, because breakups cause grief. It will
Yeah.
compound your grief to the degree that you can't see anything clearly outside of you being mad at this person that you broke up with. You got to grow past that, but you can't do
Yeah.
that in another relationship.
Right. When your heart is broken, your head does not work right. So
Mm,
you gotta work on healing your heart. And
mm.
it doesn't just have to be a romantic relationship. That could be in family relationships. That can be in other relationships that you have, but especially in romantic relationships. You got to heal your heart.
And that is so true, because whether you break up from a job, like you get fired, or whether you break up from a church, you get kicked out or you leave, it's still a breakup. Breakups are breakups. Breakups, anything that severs or
Yeah.
tears,
Yes.
that pulls you away unbeknownst to you, or against your will at that particular season in your life, or whatever the
Yes.
case may be. And so it becomes traumatic, and you don't know how to deal with it, because you're like, I didn't see that coming. Yes, you did. You
You didn't
didn't
want
want
to see
to
it, but
acknowledge.
you saw it. Yeah.
They didn't want to acknowledge it, elder. They didn't want to acknowledge it. Um, Question: why do people struggle to receive real love after a bad breakup?
Because they're still hurt.
Okay.
And they don't know how to love themselves. They a lot of times give what they think is love, but they don't know how to receive it. You
Mm,
can be a good giver if you don't know how to receive. Ask me
wow.
how I know. I am a giver, and for years I had problems receiving. And sometimes I had to pull myself to the carpet, like, hey, you've given, you deserve to receive. So, the thing is, you have to understand that sometimes in your giving, it doesn't come back from that exact source. But I
Yeah.
believe that we reap what we sow.
Yeah.
And if you are not ready, then don't make yourself ready. Don't let people talk you into being ready to move forward. So
Mm.
get ready, heal.
Um. So let's see. There's such good questions.
I see. Yes.
Okay, so this one's talking about sex. Let me go past with that one for one quick second. So, how how does a person take responsibility for their part in what happened in the relationship?
Being honest with yourself. And if there has been some kind of repercussions, you have to take responsibility for those things. If Now, I don't have children, but I do deal with a lot of people as it relates to children. And I'm like, okay, if your breakup has affected that child,
Mm,
you have to get past your issues with the spouse and deal with the need of the child. So you have to do it. It may be hard. The other person might be making it hard for you to deal with your responsibility and role in it, but you've got to be honest with yourself. And especially, I say, when there are little people involved, you on the back burner. You
right.
have to make certain that the health and welfare of those children are put before your own personal needs. And
Mm,
for me, I believe, even before you move on to the next relationship, have you dealt with the aftermath that the child has experienced? And if
exactly.
not, It's just, and we wonder why our children walk through these patterns, because they saw them, and either they're the polar opposite or they're doing exactly what you did.
And here's the thing, when we break up, the children break up.
Yeah.
They don't get that. So, and I'm
Yeah.
not talking about just divorces. I'm talking about people who have invited their significant other to become, an integral part of their life. And,
Yeah.
Mr. Bob used to come to my games and now he doesn't, or
Yeah.
Mr. So-and-so. And so now you have to help that child's heart recover, and you have to help them understand that they didn't leave because of you, or he didn't like me. Because, children, they're very
Right.
impressionable. And if they've gotten used to a pattern of somebody's, presence, and now it's gone, they're going to automatically think, well, what did I do? Or some of them are bold and say, well, mommy, what did you do? Or daddy, what did you do? Why is Miss Tiesha gone? And so you have to deal with that, because they get wounded just as much as the person in the relationship who broke up gets wounded. And so we've got to be very careful about who we introduce our children to. If you don't think it's going to lead to marriage, or you all have been dating for 6 months and you don't know what the intention of the other person is, or if you all are going in the same direction, don't bring your babies into that. I don't care if they're 2 months, 2 weeks, 12 years, or 25. Don't bring them into it, because you are injuring somebody else, and you're creating trauma to somebody else, secondary trauma to somebody else. And so no, ma'am, no, sir.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we are talking to none other than Miss Tiesha Marie Johnson, and we are talking about after the breakup, because we've all had them, not just personal relationships. We've broken up with our jobs, we've broken up with our churches, we've broken up with our family members, but we've got to understand what we need to do after the breakup. Somebody asked a question that says, should a breakup be a godly decision or a personal decision?
If you have a relationship with the Father, then certainly this could be a whole rabbit hole, but it won't.
Bring it on.
I'm not about religion. I'm about relationship. And I don't need somebody to tell me what the Lord is saying when I have a personal relationship with him. There was nothing anybody could have told me as it relates to whether I should stay or I should leave, because I sought the answer myself.
Yeah.
And like you said, I had situations that God didn't put us together. So here I am, like, creating this situation and want God to put his blessings on top of it. No, he preserved me, thankfully. Mm-hmm. Hallelujah. However, it was not what he ordained for me. It was not that. And so if you have relationship, I believe that yes, and I know what some of the people say, I know what some of the churches teach. A loving God, yes, he does. He is angry. He executes judgment and all of that, but he is love. And if I'm in a toxic situation, if I'm in an abusive situation, that is not his best. Does that mean that you automatically divorce? Not necessarily, but the other person has to prove that they want to be in a relationship just as bad as you do. Mm-hmm. And if they don't want to be there, if it just is absolutely toxic, then that's a godly and personal decision. I don't believe that the Father wants us to stay in bad situations.
Absolutely. And it also goes back to the fact that God gives us choice and free will. Yeah. If we chose to be in a relationship with somebody against his will, out of his perfect will, but in his permissive will, he allowed it. We can't get mad at him, nor can we say, well, God didn't do this or God didn't do that. We have to remember, again, our responsibility, be accountable as to why. I have accepted my accountability for my abusive relationship. I know what I did, what I didn't do. And I'm not saying in terms of getting beat. I'm not saying that part. I'm talking about in terms of leaning into the voice of God and hearing him emphatically say no, and I did it anyway. And so sometimes you have to, you bathe everything in prayer. Yes. But some things are just a personal decision. I can't do this. God didn't put us together. And I'm not talking about marriage. I'm saying if you're in a relationship, somebody you've been dating on your job, and then you left the job and y'all still are dating, and this happened, all of these different things. You don't need God to tell you whether or not to stay with that person or not, particularly if you know it's not a covenant relationship.
Yeah.
We get contracts and covenants mixed up. God is not into contract.
Yes, indeed.
He's into covenant. And
Yes.
so we break contracts at the drop of a hat. We have prenups, we have all of these different things. But if it's covenant, then God will know how to restore it and reconcile it and build it and give you both the same level of wisdom and guidance to make sure that his name is not tainted in the process of your foolishness. So we've got to be very careful. So if you put yourself together, then you use a personal decision to get yourself out. But if God put you together, yes, you have to bathe that thing in prayer and ask him, okay, God, I know I messed up. I know I jumped outside the boat before you told me to. And this is what I did. I need guidance. If you need me to stay, show me how to stay and help me to walk this thing out, except for abuse, but outside of that, you have choice.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, this is so good. We might have to bring you back.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. This one. Is it okay to be friends with an ex after the breakup?
Well, you have to ask yourself, why are you friends? You also have to ask yourself, have they moved on? Do you have children involved where you need to communicate with that person? Doesn't mean that you still have to be friends, but I find that there are situations where people are better friends after the divorce than when they were together, and that just might be the situation. But the important thing is, why do you want to maintain a friendship or a relationship with this person? So
and that's good. But for me, with the exception of one person, because I can get along with anybody. For me, I may not be your friend that same year, and I don't hate you because I'm not a hateful person or whatever. But I give myself a buffer or space to protect my heart and my spirit. Yeah. But if after a couple of years and I see you, hey, how you doing? How's life going? Oh, I'm remarried. Oh, that's wonderful.
Right.
I don't have a problem with communicating with you.
Right.
Seeing how you doing. If I see you in passing, I'm not gonna pick up the phone and call you and be like, hey, let's cheat, he. No, I'm not saying that. But in my life, any ex, whether it was a spouse or just a, whoever in my life, I don't have a problem seeing them on the street and be like, hey, how you doing? Who is this? Oh, this is little Johnny. Oh, he looks just like you. Wonderful. This is my wife. Hey, dear, how are you? I don't go into this whole thing. Yeah, girl, when he was with me, okay, that was 30 years ago. Why are you tripping? So you have to know what you can tolerate.
Yeah.
In terms of intermingling your life with that person again, because I would have never saw myself with my ex-husband, who I'm remarried to now. Not that there was anything wrong, because I still loved him, but at the same time, I wasn't sure about what God was doing in me and all of these different things. And so we laugh about it all the time. I said, God has a sense of humor, because most people are like, well, how did y'all get back together? This was a God thing. This ain't had nothing to do with Sean and Michele. This was a God thing, because I promise you. And again, it's not that I hated him. I didn't. Right. I mean, I always loved him in the back of my heart, but I knew there were other things going on in his life that I wasn't privy to and I couldn't deal with. And so you have to know what the limitations are.
Yeah.
In terms of what you can tolerate, what you can handle, because everybody can't handle running into an ex in the mall.
Right. And you really should be able to, because you should have, not depending on, like you said, if there was abuse or something like that, then maybe but when you're over them, I think you can find some kind of common mutual ground to at least be civil. Doesn't mean
absolutely
friends and, laughing it up and inviting them to the next holiday, whatever. No, not at all. But we can be civil, and if it's not mutual, so friendship to me is mutual. So if you're wanting this and they are not reciprocating, then that's an indication that either it's not time or it shouldn't be.
Absolutely. And we can't force ourselves back into somebody's life, even if under the guise of, I just want to be friend. I'm nice. Let's be cordial. But
Yeah.
sometimes separation is permanent.
Yeah.
And it's okay because God knows what would happen if you got yourself too entrenched in something that you believe you were entitled to because, oh, well, they were my friends and we were friends before this and we should be able to XYZ according to whom?
Right.
Because if it's not going to be a healthy reconciliation, if you will, then leave
Yep.
it alone. Everybody's not meant to come back into your life who you broke up with. Again, whether it's a job, you can't always go back to that place of employment, even though you loved it and whatever the conditions were as to why your employment ended. Maybe this is God's way of saying, I needed to grow you up and grow you out. So I had to pull you out in the way that I did because you weren't going to leave on your own.
Right.
So
Listen,
sometimes, huh?
Pastor Michele, you said something right there. You, even if they come back, you better examine why they came back. Because I was in a situation where I didn't remember why we broke up. Had I remembered, and I understand, sometimes we just put stuff and forget about it. But no, if somebody comes back, you better ask yourself some hard questions. Why are
Absolutely.
you here? Who sent you? And what's the nature of this? So that
Absolutely.
you don't go down that same road. The
Yes.
enemy is
Especially,
very cunning, and
oh,
he will
yes, he
trick
is.
you if you're not careful.
And if you're not on guard and not on God, they can slide their way back into your life.
Yep.
Unbeknownst to you, you're thinking they're being nice, they're being sweet or whatever, but you need to find out the motivation. Even if you don't ask that person, God, show me why this person is showing back up in my life in this season. A
Yes.
lonely season, a broke season, a tired season, a weary season. Check the season.
Check the
What color are
season.
the leaves?
Ooh.
Why are they showing up now? They could have
Yeah.
showed up in 2019. Why are they showing up in 2021? And what
Why?
do you need? So you got to check the reason and the season.
The reason and
Because
the season. I love it.
look. Okay, I'm getting excited. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have been talking to Miss Tiesha Marie Johnson, and we've been discussing after the breakup. If you want to find her, if you need counseling, if you need coaching, if you want to chit chat about your breakup, please reach out to her via email at Tiesha Marie Johnson LLC at gmail.com. That's TIESHA Johnson LLC at gmail.com. Or you can find her on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Tiesha Marie Johnson. Once again, we have been talking about after the breakup. I also want to remind those of you who are watching and or listening that I have 2 books that have just hit. Get your copy of Boots and Beyond, Stories of Trials, Tragedy, Triumph, and Transition. That's for my military folk. And My Bald is Beautiful, I Am Not My Hair. It's a book of, it's an anthology of some of my bald sisters. We're telling our stories as to why we lost our hair. And so both of those books are $20. You can email me at Michele at iam-mij.com to get the purchase link. That is MICHELE at iam-mij.com. You can also watch the replay of this show on what is it called, on YouTube at Life Matters with Michele TV Official. That is YouTube at Life Matters Michele with Michele TV Official. You can also listen every Friday at 4:00 p.m. on sensationalsoundsradio.net. So if you don't catch it visually, you can catch it audibly on sensationalsoundsradio.net every Friday at 4:00 p.m. And I'm seeking guests for 2022. Now we're going to change the platform just a little bit. Rather than meeting or having shows every Sunday, I'm giving myself a break and meeting just twice. I'm going to record or have the show just twice a month so that I can have time for me and my hubby. So if you would like to be a guest on the show, please send an email or reach out to me on my website at www.iamhyphen.mij.com/contact us. All right. My announcements are done. Miss Tiesha, if you can wrap it up and give us some final points for today.
Woo, after the breakup. Well, again, thank you so much, Pastor Michelle, for inviting me. I appreciate this opportunity to share, and it's been such a great conversation. Either I'm coming to you or you coming to me. We're going to get together again.
Let's
Uh,
do it.
but I just want people to know that it wasn't love that disappointed you, it was the person who
Mm.
didn't know how to love you. And so it could have even been that you didn't love yourself properly to invite that person into your life, but it's okay that you can heal. You've got to take the time to heal. It's a choice. And so you've got to choose, choose healing journey and take it. Is it going to be easy? No, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be pretty, and it won't be without pain. But I promise you, if you go ahead and just, my thing is put your head down and do the work.
Ah,
Do the work. And before you know it, you will be past those things that were previously holding you back. You do not have to be prisoner to the pain of your past,
mm.
but you have to choose healing over that broken place. So again, if you need some help with that, get the help that you need. I might not be your cup of tea. I hope that I am. And if I am, then by any means reach out to me. But if not, find the person who can help you in your healing journey. Get the healing that you need. And listen, what I tell people is, I don't want you to heal for the purpose of the next relationship. I want you to heal for the purpose of living the best life possible for you. I want to see people thriving. Yes, I believe in love. And I believe that once we heal and position ourselves properly, yes, you can love again. But if that's not your goal, I'm not mad at that either. But I want you to live a thriving life, even if you never get married again or get in a long-term relationship. Can you love yourself and love your life?
My,
Yes.
my, my. My. That was some good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been talking to none other than Miss Tiesha Marie Johnson, and we have been talking about after the breakup. This has been a rich discussion, and I'm sure that we're going to have to get back together and do a part two. And you have to tell me where to get a copy of your book, or tell everybody the name of your book and where they can get a copy before we close out.
Sure. It's After Him Emerge. I don't know if you can see it.
Yes.
You can go to Amazon or you can reach out to me and I can send you an autographed copy. So
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you again, my beautiful sister, for joining me
thank
today on Life
you.
Matters. It has been a joy and a gem having you with us today. Well, everybody, that is our show, Life Matters with Michele. We hope that you enjoyed it. Feel free to check out the replay on YouTube at Life Matters with Michele TV official, or listen on Friday at 4 o'clock p.m. on sensationalsoundsradio.net. Until then, please know that what matters to you matters to me. Have a blessed day, and we'll talk to you again next time.